pulse of him.
I never expected the guy who broke my nose in high school to show up at my apartment door 8 years later, holding a suitcase and calling me by my first name like we'd been friends all this time. I was halfway through reheating leftover pad thai when my doorbell rang. It was one of those evenings where nothing interesting was supposed to happen, just me, crappy takeout, and a Netflix show I'd end up falling asleep to. But the second the bell echoed through my apartment, something felt strange. I opened the door, and everything inside me stalled. "Hey," the guy on the other side said, lifting 2 fingers in a little half-wave. "Andrew Collins." The same Andrew who once slammed into me during a basketball scrimmage and accidentally broke my nose. The same Andrew who apologized so many times I genuinely thought he might cry. The same Andrew who moved away after sophomore year and became a memory I only thought about when someone brought up the good old days. Except this wasn't high school Andrew. This Andrew looked like he stepped out of a fitness app commercial, lean but solid, a worn backpack slung over one shoulder, a suitcase beside him, his blonde hair messier than I remembered. "James, right?" he asked. I blinked. "That is my name, yes." He huffed a laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Sorry. This is weird. I know it's weird. Definitely weird. I flew in from Denver an hour ago." He continued quickly. "I'm supposed to start a job here tomorrow and my housing fell through. Completely. Like gone. Vanished. They rented the room out to someone else. So I called the only person in this city whose number I had." "Oh," I said. "Who's that?" He stared at me. "You." I wished I had a better response. Something witty. Something cool. Instead, I just stood there thinking about the last time we'd talked, when he'd scribbled his number on the cast doctor put on my nose, saying, "If it heals crooked, you can sue me." "I know it's insane," he said, "but could I crash here tonight? Just tonight. I promise I'll find a hotel tomorrow." I should have said no. Normal people say no. That's what boundaries are for. Instead, I stepped aside. "Come in." He looked relieved in a way that tugged at something in my chest, then dragged his suitcase inside, trying not to look around too obviously. My apartment wasn't fancy, but it was clean enough, comfortable enough. I watched him walk in and realized something odd. He looked nervous. Andrew Collins. Nervous. Around me. "Thanks," he said once the door closed. "Really? You might have saved my ass tonight. It's fine. I wasn't doing anything." He smiled, small, genuine, the kind that makes you hold your breath for a second. "I remember," he said. I frowned. "Remember what?" "That you always said that in high school. When we'd asked you to help with something. You'd say, 'It's fine, I wasn't doing anything,' even though you were always doing something." My stomach flipped a little. "You remember that?" "I remember, more than you'd think." The room felt suddenly smaller. I cleared my throat. "You hungry?" I was heating food. His eyes lit up in that way people's eyes do when they haven't eaten a proper meal in too long. "Honestly? Yeah. I haven't had anything since the airport." "Pad thai okay?" He nodded. "Perfect." I got him a plate, and he sat on the couch like he wasn't sure he had permission to touch it. He ate quietly for a minute, then looked up. "You live alone?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "It's nice. Feels peaceful." "It's mostly just quiet," I said. "Quiet's not a bad thing." Something about the way he said that made me look at him a little longer. His eyes were tired. The kind of tired that isn't from lack of sleep but from carrying too much for too long. After he finished eating, he leaned back into the couch cushion, letting out a soft groan. "God, that feels good." "What does?" "Sitting somewhere that isn't a plane seat or an Uber or the curb outside a shady apartment building," he said with half a smile. I laughed. "Rough day?" He gave me a look. "Rough couple of years, honestly." He didn't elaborate. I didn't push. "Anyway," he said, rubbing his palms on his jeans, I can sleep on the couch. You don't have to give me your bed or anything heroic like that. Couch is fine, I said. I'll grab you a blanket. But when I turned toward the hallway, he spoke again, quieter this time. James? I looked back. Thanks. Really? I wasn't sure you'd even remember me. I stared at him for a second longer than I meant to. Of course I remember you, I said softly. He smiled. And something about that smile felt like the beginning of something I wasn't ready to name. I slept like absolute shit. Not because the couch was uncomfortable. I took my bed, like a decent host, but because my brain refused to shut up. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed Andrew standing in my doorway, saying my name like it still belonged to him somehow. By the time morning light crept through the blinds, I'd already convinced myself this whole thing was a fluke. He'd wake up, thank me again, grab his suitcase, and I'd go back to my quiet, predictable life. Except when I stepped into the living room, he was already awake. Andrew was sitting on the edge of the couch, shirtless, scrolling through his phone. The blanket had slid down around his waist, and for half a second my brain forgot how to function. He wasn't jacked in an obnoxious way, just solid, lean muscle, the kind you get from actually using your body instead of posing in a gym mirror. He looked up when he heard me. Oh, hey, he said quickly, locking his phone like he'd been caught doing something wrong. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't, I lied. Sleep okay? He nodded. Better than I expected. Your couch is surprisingly comfortable. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about it. He smiled, then glanced down at himself and froze. Sorry. I didn't realize I took my shirt off. It's fine, I said too fast. Too fast. He caught it. I saw it in the way his eyes flicked up, searching my face. There was no judgment there. Just curiosity. Maybe something else. I run hot when I sleep, he added, like he needed to justify it. Same, I said, even though I absolutely did not. I turned toward the kitchen before I could embarrass myself further. Coffee? God, yes. I handed him a mug a few minutes later. Our fingers brushed, just barely. It was nothing. But my chest tightened like it was everything. We stood there, leaning against opposite counters, sipping in silence. So, he said eventually, I've got a meeting at 10. Orientation stuff. Office downtown. Nice. Yeah. I should probably find a place to live today. There it was. The end point. Right, I said. Another pause. Then he glanced up. You don't have to kick me out right away, do you? I mean, I'll be gone most of the day. I just don't know if I'll have somewhere lined up by tonight. I hesitated. The smart answer was you'll figure it out. The honest one was, you can stay another night. His shoulders relaxed immediately. Seriously? Yeah. It's fine. I wasn't doing anything. That same look crossed his face again, that knowing one. You still say it, he said softly. Say what? That. Like it doesn't matter. Like you don't. I shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. Habit. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Well, thanks. When he left, the apartment felt different. Not empty, charged. I spent the day pretending to work while replaying every interaction we'd had. The way he looked more tired than I remembered. The way he hesitated before touching anything, like he was afraid to take up space. The way he said rough couple of years and then swallowed the rest of the sentence. He came back around 6. I heard the door unlock and looked up from my laptop just in time to see him step inside, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted. How'd it go? I asked. He dropped his bag by the door and exhaled hard. I forgot how much I hate first days. You survive? Barely. I grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and handed him one. He took it with a grateful smile. We sat on the couch this time, closer than last night. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off him. I almost didn't come back, he said suddenly. I turned toward him. Why? Because this feels. He trailed off, staring at the bottle in his hands. I don't know. Familiar. And unfamiliar at the same time. That's bad? No, he said quickly. Just dangerous. My heart skipped. Dangerous how? He finally looked at me. His expression was open in a way that made my chest ache. Because I've spent a long time pretending I didn't miss people, he said. Didn't miss places. Didn't miss you. The room went quiet. I swallowed. You miss me? He nodded once. I thought about you a lot after I moved. Especially senior year. I kept meaning to reach out. But you didn't. No. His jaw tightened. I didn't. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to demand answers for things I hadn't even known were unresolved until now. Instead, I said, You're here now. He watched me for a moment, like he was deciding something. Can I ask you something? He said. Yeah. Were you out back then? The question landed heavier than I expected. No, I said. Not really. And now? I hesitated. Then nodded. Yeah. His shoulders loosened. Good. Why? He smiled faintly. Because I was terrified you'd say no. To what? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he shifted, just enough that his knee pressed lightly against mine. Because I think, he said quietly, that I'd been carrying something unfinished for a long time. My pulse was loud in my ears. And I don't know what to do with it, he continued, except be honest about it. I didn't move. Didn't pull away. So this is me being honest, he said. I don't want tonight to just be another couch and small talk night. The space between us felt razor thin now. What do you want it to be? I asked. His eyes dropped to my mouth, then back up. I don't know, he admitted. But I want to find out. With you. I didn't answer with words. I leaned in. The kiss wasn't dramatic. No fireworks. No urgency. It was careful. Like we were both waiting to see if the other would pull back. Andrew's lips were warm, soft, slightly hesitant. He didn't push. Didn't rush. Just rested there, giving me time to decide if this was really happening. It was. I leaned in more fully, and that tiny shift changed everything. He exhaled against my mouth, a quiet sound that felt personal, like he hadn't meant for me to hear it. His hand came up, stopping just short of my jaw, hovering like he was still asking permission. I nodded. That was all it took. His fingers brushed my cheek, thumb resting lightly near my mouth. The kiss deepened, not frantic, not hungry, just real. Familiar in a way that made my chest ache. When we pulled back, we were still close. Foreheads nearly touching. Hey, he murmured. Hey. His smile was nervous now. We don't have to do anything. I just needed to know if this still felt like something. It does, I said quietly. He searched my face, then nodded. Yeah. It really does. We stayed on the couch, shoulders pressed together, the TV playing something neither of us watched. His arm rested behind me along the back cushion, not quite around me, but close enough that it felt intentional. So, I said eventually, what happened in Denver? He stiffened just slightly. Enough that I noticed. Life, he said at first. I waited. He sighed, rubbing his thumb along the neck of his beer bottle. I tried to be someone I wasn't. For a long time. Dated who I was supposed to date. Worked where I was supposed to work. Told myself it was enough. And it was exhausting. I nodded. Yeah. That tracks. He glanced at me. I came out last year. My heart skipped. Yeah? Yeah. Not in some big moment. Just stopped lying when people asked. How did that go? He gave a crooked smile. Messy. Necessary. Silence settled again, but it felt comfortable. Like something honest had finally landed between us. He leaned back into the couch, eyes on the ceiling. I thought moving here would be a clean start. New job. New place. No expectations. And then you rang my doorbell. Yeah, he said softly. And then I rang your doorbell. I smiled. Regret it? He turned his head to look at me fully now. Not even a little. Something warm spread through my chest at that. We didn't kiss again that night. Not because we didn't want to, but because either of us needed to. We sat there until midnight, talking about nothing and everything. High school memories. The weird jobs we'd had. The people we almost became. When it got late, he stood and stretched. You sure about me taking the couch again? Yeah, I said. I'm sure. He hesitated, then nodded. Okay. But as he walked toward the couch, he paused. James? Yeah? Thank you for not making this weird. I smiled. Give it time. He laughed, quiet and genuine. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in years. The next morning felt domestic. Andrew was in the kitchen when I woke up, wearing one of my old college t-shirts and standing barefoot at the counter, carefully flipping pancakes like the stove might explode if he messed up. You cook? I asked. He jumped slightly. I try. Don't get excited yet. They smell good. That's the butter doing most of the work. We ate together at the small kitchen table, knees bumping occasionally. Each time it happened, either of us moved away. So, he said, poking at his food, I found a short-term sublet. That's good, I said, even though my chest tightened. Yeah. I'm moving tomorrow. Oh. He noticed. Of course he did. I don't want this to feel like I'm disappearing again, he said carefully. I just don't want to overstay my welcome. You're not, I said. I know, he said softly. But I don't want you thinking this was just convenience. I met his eyes. What was it then? He didn't answer right away. Just reached across the table and rested his hand over mine. Something I don't want to rush, he said. My pulse thudded. I'm okay with that, I said. His thumb brushed lightly against my knuckles. Me too. We stayed like that for a moment longer than necessary. And when he finally stood to get ready for work, I realized something quietly, unmistakably true. This wasn't a visit. This was a beginning. Andrew moved out the next evening. Not dramatically. No awkward goodbyes. Just him zipping up his backpack by the door, while I leaned against the wall pretending this didn't feel heavier than it should. I'll come grab the rest later, he said, nodding at the few things he'd scattered around. His toothbrush in my bathroom, a hoodie draped over the chair, his running shoes by the door. You don't have to, I said. You can just leave them. He smiled. You sure? Yeah. That smile lingered a little longer than necessary. Then he stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his soap, clean, familiar already. I'll text you, he said. I know. And then he was gone. The apartment felt quieter than before he ever showed up. We didn't fall into anything dramatic after that. No big declarations. No sudden labels. We just kept seeing each other. He came over after work some nights, still in his office clothes, kicking off his shoes like he belonged there. Other nights, I went to his sublet, a tiny studio with mismatched furniture and terrible lighting. We cooked bad meals together, sat on the floor because there was only one chair, talked until way too late. Sometimes we kissed. Sometimes we didn't. And somehow, that made it feel more serious. One night, we were lying on my couch, his head on my chest, my fingers tracing slow, absent-minded lines along his arm. The TV was on, volume low, some crime show either of us cared about. You ever think about how weird timing is? He asked quietly. All the time. We could have done this years ago. I nodded. Or not at all. He shifted slightly, tilting his head so he could look up at me. That would have been awful. I smiled. Yeah. It really would have. He went quiet again, then said, I'm bad at this. At what? At letting things be good without waiting for them to fall apart. I felt that one hit home. Me too, I admitted. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you feel like this is real?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to say it right. "Yeah," I said finally. "I do." His chest rose with a slow breath. "Good." The first real crack came a week later. We were out with some of his new coworkers, casual drinks after work, nothing serious. I hadn't met them before. I figured I'd just be James, no explanation required. And for the most part, it was fine. Until someone asked Andrew, "So how long have you been in the city?" "About 3 weeks," he said. "And already bringing friends out?" she teased, nodding toward me. Andrew smiled, but didn't look at me. "Yeah," he said. "James has been showing me around." Friend. The word shouldn't have mattered. But it did. I stayed quiet the rest of the night, smiling when expected, laughing when it felt appropriate. Andrew noticed, of course. He always did. On the walk home, he finally asked, "Did I do something?" I stopped walking. "Do you want me to answer that honestly?" He turned to face me. "Yes." "I don't know where I fit," I said. "And I'm trying not to overthink it, but sometimes it feels like I'm easy to keep, undefined." His expression softened. "That's not what I want." "Then what do you want?" He opened his mouth. Closed it again. "I'm still figuring that out," he admitted. That stung more than I expected. "I don't need a label tomorrow," I said. "I just need to know I'm not something you're avoiding naming because you're scared." He exhaled, rubbing his face. "I'm not scared of you." "I know," I said. "I'm scared of being temporary." That stopped him. He stepped closer, voice low. "You're not." "How do you know?" "Because I don't let people matter to me like this," he said. "And you do." I searched his face. "Then don't keep me in the gray." He nodded slowly. "Okay." We stood there in the quiet, the city humming around us. "Okay," he repeated. That night, he didn't leave. We didn't rush into anything physical. We just lay in bed, facing each other, close enough to feel each other's breath. "I don't want to screw this up," he said. "You won't," I said. "As long as you talk to me." He reached for my hand under the blanket, lacing our fingers together. "I'm not going anywhere." I believed him. And that scared me more than anything else. The thing I didn't expect was how quickly Andrew started to feel permanent. Not in a dramatic, whirlwind way. Just in the quiet stuff. The kind you don't notice until it's already happening. He started leaving a toothbrush at my place again, on purpose this time. He knew where I kept the extra coffee filters. He'd text me random things during the day like, "Your neighbor's dog is barking again," even when he wasn't anywhere near my apartment. It felt domestic in a way that scared the hell out of me. One Saturday morning, we were lying in bed, sunlight cutting across the sheets. Andrew was half asleep, arm draped over my waist, thumb moving absent-mindedly along my side like it was muscle memory. "You're doing that thing," I said. "What thing?" "The thing where you pretend everything's fine so you don't have to talk." He cracked one eye open. "Am I that obvious?" "Only to me." He sighed and rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. "I got invited to a work thing next weekend. Company retreat. 2 days. That's cool. Plus ones are invited." I waited. "I want you to come," he said finally. "But I don't want to make it weird." I turned toward him. "What would make it weird?" "If I introduce you as something I'm not ready to stand behind." That was the first time he'd ever said it like that. "I'm not asking for a speech," I said quietly. "I just don't want to feel like I'm hidden." He nodded slowly. "You wouldn't be. Then what would you say?" He looked at me, really looked at me. And for once, he didn't dodge it. "I'd say you're the guy I'm seeing," he said. "The guy I care about." Something in my chest loosened. "That's enough," I said. His hand found mine under the sheets. Good. The retreat was fine. Awkward at first, but fine. Andrew stayed close without hovering. Introduced me naturally. Didn't stumble over his words. Didn't pull away when someone asked how we met. When he said, "We go way back," and smiled at me like it meant something more now, I felt it click into place. That night, back in the hotel room, we sat on the edge of the bed. Shoes kicked off, city lights glowing through the window. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, yeah?" He smiled, relieved. "I was worried I'd messed that up." "You didn't." He hesitated, then said, "I don't want to keep guessing anymore." My heart picked up. "Guessing what?" "Us," he said simply. I took a breath. "Okay. I'm not perfect at this," he continued. "I get scared. I pull back. But I don't want to do that with you." I watched him, the same guy who once stood awkwardly in my doorway with a suitcase and nowhere to go. "What are you saying?" I asked. "I'm saying," he said carefully, "that I want to try this. Really try. Not half in. Not undefined." The room felt quiet in a good way. "I'm in," I said. His shoulders dropped like he'd been carrying something heavy for too long. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For not walking away when I gave you reasons to." I smiled. "You stayed. So did you." A few weeks later, we were back at my place, cooking dinner badly and arguing about whether pasta water actually mattered. "You're impossible," he said, laughing. "You love it." He paused, then said it without thinking. "I do." The words hung there. He froze. Looked at me like he just jumped off something high. Sorry, I didn't mean." I stepped closer. "You meant it." He swallowed. "Yeah. I did." I felt it then, not the rush, not the adrenaline. Just the certainty. "I love you too," I said. He let out a breath that sounded like relief and pulled me into a hug so tight it made me laugh. "God," he said quietly. "I'm glad it was you." "Yeah," I said into his shoulder. "Me too." It wasn't some dramatic moment that made me realize this was real. It was Tuesday night. I came home late, shoulders tight from a long day, keys still in my hand when I pushed the door open, and Andrew was already there. Sitting on the couch, feet kicked up, flipping through something dumb on TV. "Hey," he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Hey," I answered. No butterflies. No spike of adrenaline. Just relief. That's when it hit me. Love wasn't the rush I'd always expected. It was the absence of tension. The quiet knowing that someone was there, even when nothing special was happening. We settled into a rhythm. Not perfect. Just honest. He moved out of the sublet and into a place 10 minutes away, not into my apartment, not yet. We talked about it. Decided not to rush. Decided that wanting something didn't mean you had to grab it all at once. Some nights he stayed over. Some nights he didn't. But every morning, there was a text. "You good? Coffee later? Miss you." Simple. Real. The first time we ran into someone from high school together was weird. It happened at a grocery store, of all places. Some guy from our old class, Brian, I think, did a double take. "Holy shit," he said. "You two still know each other?" Andrew glanced at me before answering. "Yeah," he said. "We're together." Together. The word didn't feel heavy. It felt right. Brian blinked, shrugged, and said, "Huh. Didn't see that coming." Andrew smiled. "Neither did I." Later in the car I asked, "Was that hard?" He shook his head. "No. Actually, it felt good." We had arguments. About stupid things. About real things. Once, I accused him of pulling away when he got stressed. He accused me of assuming the worst instead of asking. We went quiet for a whole night. The next morning, he showed up with coffee and said, I don't want silence to be our thing. I nodded. Me neither. We learned how to fight without breaking things. One night, months later, we sat on the roof of my building, city lights stretching out below us. Andrew leaned back on his hands, looking relaxed in a way I'd never seen him before. You ever think about how close this came to not happening? He asked. All the time. He looked at me. I'm glad it didn't miss us. I reached over, threading my fingers through his. Me too. It wasn't a fairy tale. We didn't suddenly become perfect versions of ourselves. But we showed up. Again and again. And one quiet night, when he fell asleep with his head on my chest, breathing slow and steady, I realized something simple and undeniable. He wasn't passing through anymore. Neither was I. This wasn't a moment. This was a life.